Everybody, it's just about 8:45 now. 4 degrees currently on this Monday morning, April the 9th, 13 is the high later today. Carol Finlay is here, and she is the executive director and founder of Book Clubs for Inmates. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Carol, you were an English teacher.
I was. I taught in high school and university level, yes.
And then, how did you make this transition? Why did you want to start these book clubs, specifically in prisons?
Well, in 2009, I had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with Jean Vanier in Troilly, France, and your viewers will know him as a pretty wonderful Canadian and humanitarian, the founder of the L'Arche communities. And he said whenever he traveled to a new city, he would find psychiatric institutions or prisons to visit, because that's where most of the suffering in society lies. So my family house is in the Kingston area, 13 penal institutions, all in my backyard, and I thought, gosh, what could I do? Well, I could do all sorts of things, but I've actually had a passion for books my whole life, and I've been involved and initiated a lot of book clubs, and I thought, hey, I'll take in this crazy idea and see if anybody be interested in helping me start a book club.
Well, what was the prison, the official response to this initially must have been?
Crazy.
They thought you were crazy.
They thought I was a bit nuts, but they thought, well, why not give it a try? And my thought was, you know, that we would form circles of civil discourse and that we would engage in respectful listening. I knew a lot of stats by this time. I knew that 75% of inmates come from abusive and neglectful backgrounds, very impoverished backgrounds. So I thought that this would be some way in which I could help, my volunteers and I could help, form them and change them and help them to fit into society afterwards.
How did your reading program then help the inmates in terms of the book selection, or how did that evolve?
Well, we chose literary fiction and nonfiction. And we chose the sort of books that a lot of Canadians would be reading. The Book of Negroes, Chalice of Sarajevo. We've just finished Diane Ackerman's The Zookeeper's Wife in one prison.
Do you
a lot of
get them
classics.
approved by the prison?
Well, we're told not that they shouldn't contain any instructions on terrorism or bomb making, nor pornography, but you know, that's a rather broad word. And the woman who walked into doors has a lot of sex scenes, and the fellows were all talking about the sex scenes. They seemed to forget that I was there, but it was, you know. So, you know, we have respectful listening. We say, we listen very carefully to you, and you have to listen very carefully to each other. But literary fiction and nonfiction really gives you all the subject of life.
But Carol, how did you feel walking in there the first time? And you know, I was reading that you said you're sort of facing a sea of men, tattoos, you know, prison uniforms. What?
Yes.
How did your gut in that moment say, why am I doing this? What was I thinking?
I thought I was walking into the most wonderful adventure, and I've loved adventures. And all of the volunteers who've gone into these prisons afterwards with me have said the same thing. But there is a moment when the bars come down with this awful clang behind you, and you realize that you're locked in, and you walk down a corridor. This is in Collins Bay, and they're fellows who don't look terribly happy, and they're sort of tattoos up one side and down the other, and they're pumped up. Exercise is a big thing for protection in prisons. And then you I had them in a circle, about 15 to 20 of them, and they didn't say anything. I said, how did you like the book? Yes, no, yes. I thought, oh my goodness, this hour is going to be tough.
This is a volunteer basis though, so
Yes.
it was put out to the prisoners, would you like to be part of a book club? And
that's right.
The response was, and they did show up.
Yeah, about 20 of them came, and then about 15 actually read the book. But none of them had ever been engaged in book clubs. And actually, I don't think in that first group any had ever actually read a book, except when they'd had to for school. 97%, as much as 97% are high school dropouts. So, but I would say to them, look, this first book's going to be tough for you to finish. It's going to be a discipline. But I'm really going to encourage you. I'm going to congratulate you. You have a month, so start now. And the second book's going to be easier. And by the time they got to the third book, they were turning off TVs and reading their books and talking about it among themselves.
And that's the payoff for you, really, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's
now
wonderful.
you go into women's prisons as well.
Yes, yes.
There's no difference, is there, in the way the genders are, in the material they look at, or?
Well, they do a little Jodi Picoult down in the women's prison. And we did War, Sebastian Younger in the men's. I don't think I'd take that into the women's prison.
Right.
They're more Aboriginal women in the women's prisons. We have in the Ontario prisons a predominantly huge number of black fellows.
Right.
Many more than are in the population. So we try and give them sort of stuff with Caribbean influences, and Small Island by Andrea Levy, for instance, to engage
from
them.
the prison officials as to whether they feel that this has changed the culture within the prison at all, or?
Well, they say they turn off the televisions, their televisions, to read the books.
We're not a big fan of that trick.
Yeah, really. After 9 a.m.
I forgot that.
So what's tougher, high school students or inmates?
You know, inmates are so grateful for anybody volunteering. And I would say to all your viewers at home, you know, go out there, get involved. These people are so marginalized and so forgotten, but, you know, someday they're going to come out. And if they are more civilized, if we have somehow pulled them into society during their time in prison, you're going to be safer. So I say also, you know, you think at first, gosh, these people look so sort of strange, alien. And then after the third time, you say, A, they're so normal, and B, they're wonderful. Because, well, they self-select, come into the book clubs, but these are our fellows who made a bad choice, who had nobody to guide them, who thought they'd take a little sort of, you know, quick trip through drugs and make a little money. And, but they're wonderful. They're wonderful people. They feel all of them. I have never actually heard an inmate say, I didn't do something. I've mainly heard inmates say, you know, I feel so dreadful about what I've done. And I've said, you know, go to church. You're a forgiven person. Don't dwell on it.
Thanks for opening our eyes to an area that most people would have never experienced or have any knowledge about. It's called Book Clubs for Inmates. Carol Finlay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Nice talking to you.